On today's episode, we're going to be building a set of roll-around jack stands. I'm going to take you step by step on just how to do this and just show you just how easy and cheap this can be, especially if you're balling on a budget, which is pretty common in the racing world. All you're going to need is a welder and some sort of cutting device and a little bit of 16 gauge 2x2 square tubing and some casters, which we'll talk about a little further into the video. In the racing world, it's very nice to have these. For one, you can get your tires off, you can get your suspension hanging, and you can make your race car mobile in the shop, which is nice in a small race shop. Take it outside to wash it, whatever you got to do. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope somebody gets some sort of success out of this. Maybe by the end of the video, you'll already have your plan set to build just out of your own. So stick around, let's get this thing going. So the set that we're building today is actually for a brand new black diamond. Real fancy stuff here. On his front, he's actually going to go from center to center of his main frame rails because it's one of them underslung or some sort of, I don't know what the heck it is. I just know the front is freaky deaky. So we can't go off the lower front strut bar like you would on a Rocket, for instance, or even like an older Masters built. So that being said, just keep that in mind. We're going to start off with our bases, the main base, what the caster will be bolted on. We'll be a caster in all four corners here. Now we know that our front is going to be 30 3/4 center to center. So we're just going to base both of our bases. See what I did there? Off that center to center. That way it just looks formal. You ain't got two different sides, just whatever. You got what I'm saying here. So at 30 3/4 center to center, we're going to do a takeoff on. So the set that we're building today is actually for a brand new black diamond. Real fancy stuff here. On his front, he's actually going to go from center to center of his main frame rails because it's one of them underslung or some sort of, I don't know what the heck it is. I just know the front is freaky deaky. So we can't go off the lower front strut bar like you would on a Rocket, for instance, or even like an older Masters built. So that being said, just keep that in mind. We're going to start off with our bases, the main base, what the caster will be bolted on. We'll be a caster in all four corners here. Now we know that our front is going to be 30 3/4 center to center. So we're just going to base both of our bases. See what I did there? Off that center to center. That way it just looks formal. You ain't got two different sides, just whatever. You got what I'm saying here. So at 30 3/4 center to center, we're going to do a takeoff on how many pieces we got to cut and what lengths. So we're going to have two bases, so we're going to have 4 pieces of each. Now our cap pieces are going to be running long ways. So when we do 30 3/4 center to center on that, we're going to add an inch because this is 2-inch square tubing. So we're going to add an inch for each side. So we're adding a total of 2 inches. So 30 3/4, that would give us total length 32 3/4. So it's your center to mark, and an inch. You see what I'm saying there? So we have to have 4 pieces, 32 3/4. And then for our width, we're going to pretty well to go with a standard, and I build these at 6. What do I usually do? It's written there, all funky looking. I can't read my own handwriting. 18 inches, center to center. So with that being inside, we're going to take 2 inches off. So that puts us at 4 pieces, 16 inches. Bada boom, bada bang, got that going on. Now we're going to get our upright pieces take off. We're going to need a total of 2 for the front, 2 for the rear. So our 2 for the front, we want it to be, well, he wants it to be 20.5 inches from the ground, the bottom of the caster, to where the base of the dolly, where like the frame will be sitting. Now take in consideration when you get this number, you gotta give yourself enough room for your jack to get above the little tongues that's gonna be hugging the frame itself. So take that in consideration there. They're probably gonna be about 1.5 inches up high. So to get that number, you're automatically gonna take 2 inches off this number because you're working with 2-inch square tubing and the upright piece is going to be on top of that base, which is 2 inches thick. Now you got to get a measurement of your caster, flip it upside down, fix the old safe up there, kind of get a half-ass eyeball. I'm calling it 7 3/8. So now we're taking 7 3/8 plus 2, we're taking a total 9 3/8 off that number right there, which comes out to be 11 1/8 millimeters. And 2 of those for the front. Center to center on this. This piece of tubing is going to be in between the two uprights. So we're going to take off 2 inches off that number. Gives you 20 inches.
Okay, so now we got all our pieces cut and welded. We're going to go ahead and tack and weld both our bases off first, and then we'll tack and weld our risers. Get our wheels, casters all ready to be bolted on, weld all together, paint, and we'll be done with these puppies. So to start off, anytime you're welding anything, you're always going to want to make sure it's completely tacked, all corners. That way it won't flex on you. You're going to weld it, the metal's not going to move on you, it's going to be where it's going to be. So, on my table, I already got one corner perfectly square. Square the stuff up. Make sure it's together. Do a little checking. Now, we're going to put a tack on all 4 corners here. Go and flip it over. At the other side. We'll go welder on out. Okay, now that we got our bases built and our risers built, before we connect these risers on here, we're going to go ahead and do our nut rivets for our casters. Now, you don't have to use a nut rivet. To me, it's just easiest that way. If you ever have to change a caster, you just pop a 1/4 inch bolt out or 5/16 or whatever. You could weld it or just drill holes and bolt it, whatever your preference or whatever your tools you have allows you to do. Now, I went ahead and made a guide for these, which all you'd have to do is just hold your caster on there, mark the 3 holes. It just makes it a little bit easier. What we're going to do, we're going to mark all 4 corners. Make sure you face the plate the same way every time. Otherwise you'd have one goofy looking caster on there. Right now, hopefully we can find a drill bit that's actually sharp enough to drill all 12 holes, but we might have to burn through a couple before we find that perfect one. Screw these up till they're about flush, and then okay, so now that we have our nut rivets on our bases, we're going to go ahead and mount our uprights to the base. Put our rear on first. You see, that's why on this rear base I had to add the center bar, because it's narrower than the front is. So just having some support. Well, the landing points are narrower on the rear than the front. Should go 7.5. 7.5. Center that up. And then I'll just tell. Out of a square one way or the other. Definitely pull that way. Make sure you are completely center and get it completely squared up. If it's out of square one way, just tack the opposite side first, then push it over to wherever square it is, tack that side, and proceed to weld out. Now we'll square her on up. Kind of draw her up damn near what we need to do. Okay, so these are all welded together now. Not half-assed nice. So now it will go on to paint. And there's the rear. As you can see here, ignore the mess. We've got a disaster in here. The rear typically goes on this crossbar right behind the fuel cell. Now this is for a dirt late model, but for each application I'm sure it's different. But hell, every racing vehicle or vehicle has a bar somewhere that you can come up to. And on this I'm actually got it across the lower front strut bar. Let's see, with a lot of the newer cars, they got like an underslung deal up here. It's all fancy Nancy kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So on the set that we're building, it's actually going to go from this frame rail to that frame rail, and it'll just pocket right up the side. So let's get some fresh coats on these puppies. Now that we've got our stands here completely built, prior to putting casters on these puppies, we're going to fire up the old oven, throw a little powder coat on it. This customer wanted the black powder. Get this at your local Ace Hardware. Any Rust-Oleum or Rust Stop will do, unless you prefer to have it powder coated. But, you know, how bougie are you? Okay, now that we got them all built, they're all painted, we're staring at the finish line. We're now going to proceed to bolt our casters on or weld at this time, but you probably want to weld them on prior to painting if you are going to go that route. But this is where the nut rivets really do come in handy. And the main thing here is you want to always get a caster that's more than what you really need. Because all it takes is one crack, one hole in your concrete, hits it sideways, it always bends it. So it's always good to get a real good thick, heavy duty caster. Just go and bolt these puppies on. Start with my nuts and washers and bolts, or not nuts, but bolts here. Okay, those are all bolted up. The next one, proceed to put our plug caps in. And you can get these off Amazon, eBay, Google. Just little plastic little plugs here. It's little 2-inch square plastic plugs. And one size typically fits all. You just hold them babies up there. Tap it all in. You don't have to do this, but it gives a nice clean look to it. More of a factory look at this, you could say. Got one all done here. Plastic plugs in this one. Well, our job is done here. If you was able to watch this whole video and find some interest in it, sure to appreciate you for sticking around there. This will be good for any kind of circle track guy, low budget team just trying to get your car off the ground so you can work on it, get the tires off, and not want to spend, you know, $400 or $500 buying a set, or even you're just home renter. So a man in the shop got an old catfish Camaro or something he wants to get up in the air so he can, I don't know, adjust the linkage, suspension, who knows. Whatever floats your boat's what I'm trying to get here. Thanks again. I hope you can like, subscribe to my channel. There's going to be a lot more stuff like this. Plan on building a pit lift here pretty shortly too. Also known as just an automatic lift. Could be used for a vehicle as well if built properly. So thanks again.